Welcome to Seekers and Shifters, where we talk to the world's foremost experts in personal growth and development and ask them everything we really want to know. Hey there, Seekers and Shifters. It is Michelle, your hostess with the mostest, and I am here today with Stephanie Ball. Stephanie, do you want to introduce yourself to the club?
Sure, happy to do so. Hey, Michelle, thanks for having me. So my name is Stephanie Ann Ball. I am a professional opera singer and a sound meditation facilitator.
We're so excited to have you on. So here on Seekers and Shifters, obviously we are talking to experts in personal growth and development, and you do some really cool shit with sound healing, and we're really excited to talk about it. But first, I want to understand how you got into it. I mean, you have this background as a singer, an opera singer, classically trained. How did you go from that into sound healing work?
Yes, so it's been a bit of a winding road, and it's all been kind of a fun, happy accident. So I've been singing my whole life. I have 2 degrees in professional classical singing, and that requires you to have so many different skills in the personal development world, like to learn music effectively and to stay focused on stage, no matter what's going on in the rest of your life. You have to really know yourself really, really well and treat your body like you're an athlete, and do the same with your mental fortitude and all of your mental focus and being able to manage your emotions and all of that stuff. It requires you to perform at a really high level, both on and off stage. So on my journey into the professional opera world, I got obsessed with all things personal development. And at some point, I had a really brilliant teacher who was like, you should probably consider teaching people this stuff too. So I started coaching people on things like executive function, organization, productivity, focus, stage fright, that kind of stuff, several years ago. And then it was during the pandemic that I was listening to a lot of sound healing with crystal bowls and Tibetan bowls for my own stress management. And somewhere along the line, all the dots connected and everything clicked. And I was like, I bet I can also be doing this as well, because obviously everyone performs better when your stress levels are managed and your nervous system is more well regulated. And music is one of the best tools out there to do that. So I added that back into the rotation, and it's been amazing.
And I love it. And I love that you started with kind of stage fright. And, to your point, you're having to perform at this insane level to do what you do. And that level of being able to bring your full self is going to be helpful to anybody, regardless of what they're doing. And one of the things that we've been talking about lately is associating versus dissociating. High performance is totally associated with dissociating. You know what I'm saying? A lot of high performance, we do it by dissociating from our needs. We kind of just stuff everything to the back, and we just get ready. And we go up there, we get on stage, literally or figuratively. What you're doing with sound healing is the opposite. You're really helping people come into themselves. How do you reconcile those two things?
Oh gosh, I love that question. And it's almost like, when you're on stage, at least from the perspective of a singer, you almost have to be able to do both at once. It's like you sort of split yourself into 2 people, because there's the part of you that's standing on the stage and actively paying attention to the conductor and listening to the orchestra and paying attention to where your other colleagues are, so nobody steps on your train, and then remembering the words and the music and the counting and remembering to turn in this direction and go over here. So there's that part of your brain that's in it. But then there's this amazing thing that happens when you pop into flow state, where it just all synthesizes into one thing. So there's this it's almost like this out of body experience where you start watching yourself do the thing, and while watching it through your own eyes at the same time. And it's there's some force behind you just going, okay, just sing a little bit louder here. They'll love it. And just do a really cool, just hang on to that note just a little bit longer. It'll be really, really thrilling for the audience. And so you have to learn how to play both sides of that coin at the same time to really just become a vessel for the sound to come through for the audience.
And how do you translate that into functioning for executives, people who are just trying to perform, at their corporate job? we don't have the same kind of audience,
Totally. I think this applies to anybody who's doing anything really, where you really want to show up as your absolute best and just let all of the nerves fall away. Cause it like doesn't matter. I still get nervous when I perform anything. They're always going to be there, but learning how to set the nerves aside so you can just show up and zoom in and focus and just do the thing with excellence, no matter what it is. If you're presenting in a meeting, if you're focused in on a particular task on your computer that you really want to knock out, just that ability to like calm yourself down, focus in, and at the same time, zoom out so you can pull in as much information as possible so you can think faster. It's like, it's a pretty cool trick to be able to do. And it requires you to master navigating your emotions. That's like the biggest piece of it.
Oh God, isn't that just the secret to life? If you master navigating your emotions, you are golden. Like you've already achieved success, in my opinion, because a lot of what we're trying to achieve for is to get a feeling, right? I want to get this promotion. I want to make this much money, or I want to, I want to succeed. Anyway, is why. So I can feel proud, so I can feel happy, so I can feel confident, so I can secure. If I can master my emotions and just find that feeling now, then all the rest is just gravy. Then that's just the rest is just a good time. Not to mention mastering your emotions so you don't run around miserable, angry, sad, ashamed, milky all the time. Which
right. Yeah, we don't want that.
Let's talk about sound healing. In my limited experience receiving sound healing, one of the things that I found so beautiful about it is that it just really brings you back to center. If you're doing anything with sound bowls or even like I've just been to gong meditations before, where every time your mind wanders, gong, like you come right back. And it's like the sound of it takes up that space where the monkey mind would otherwise be. Can you talk to us about how that works, why that works?
Yes, I can. I could nerd out about the science behind this all day. I think it's so fun. So sound waves is just vibration, right? So we have, if you take an object and bang it into some matter, it vibrates through the air or the water. And that's how we hear the sound, right? So it's like if you take a hammer and smack it on a piece of wood, those vibrations in the air, that creates the bang that we hear. Okay. And so it's why, like, if you're sitting inside of your house and you hear a car with a really loud muffler coming down the street, you can like feel it in your body. This is the same principle. So what's going on is when the sound waves enter into our ear canal, they then move into the brain, and our brain translates it into an electrical signal and sends the vibration down through our nervous system. So you get that sense of like hearing the sound, but also feeling it at the same time. And if something is hiding in your nervous system, some kind of emotion, the vibrations will knock it out. That's why it's so common for people to like have a complete mood shift when they hear a song, or people will be at a wedding and they hear the music and they start crying, because sound has this amazing way of finding the stuff that we cannot see with our eyes. And it's so effective at just getting into the brain and turning off all of that thinking, because it's working in the body and working with the nervous system. And it can pull you from a state of like stress and frantic edginess to calm centeredness in minutes.
Oh, I love it so much. And I'm somebody who's always felt music. I'm not talented like you are. I don't sing other than like in a chorus, but I've always felt music, and I've had an emotional response to music. And I know there have been plenty of people that I was friends with or dated, that person that's sitting in the passenger seat in the car, and they're not having the same response. Like, or do some people feel music more than others?
Oh, I think everybody feels it in their own way, and different kinds of music are going to affect people in different ways, just depending on what is going on inside of you. And that can even vary from person to person, day to day. Like there are some days when all I want to listen to is like a movie soundtrack. And then there's other days where I have to put on some like hip hop or something. So it really does just depend on what your like baseline emotional state is.
I can shift my moods and control my emotions with music. And a lot of people do that, right? Like we put on workout music to get ourselves hyped up to work out. And then there are other people who maybe like, they're just like, what do you do? What are you doing? So I don't know. It's kind of interesting to think about. I do have a question for you from the Seekers Club. I did say I'd be talking to you today, and did anyone have any questions? And Stephanie wanted to know about chakra healing and chakra clearing. And yeah, I know you're already excited. I can see your face. Woo. And are there different sounds that clear different chakras, or how does that work?
Yes. Okay. This is an amazing question. So sound is really powerful in more than one way. Receiving sound can unblock a whole bunch of stuff, and also creating sound can do the same thing. So chakras, 7 are energy centers that run up the center of the body, right? What's super cool is each chakra has its own corresponding pitch that you can use to specifically target it if you really want to balance it or open it up or unblock it or whatever. And it just runs right up the C major scale. And the other fun part about that is each chakra has a corresponding vowel sound. So if you can't get to a sound bath or you don't have anything to listen to, you can literally just like grab the corresponding pitch and the corresponding vowel and sing yourself back into vibrational alignment. It's super cool.
That is super cool. So do you have recordings or something that you share so that somebody can match your pitch if they want to, clear out the root chakra, or how does it work?
Absolutely. So I have some stuff that's on YouTube, and I have more coming out. So I'll make sure I drop you that info so you can see it. And I have a cool app where I'm constantly uploading new recordings, and people have been asking me about this. So there must be like something in the air. But yes, I'm going to put some chakra specific and vocal toning tracks in there so people can either listen or sing along.
Fabulous. We are all going to be clearing our chakras out with you after this. And I love it. So I know you're also doing like corporate sound healing events. And I want to know, because I can kind of imagine when you're one-on-one with somebody, just like any kind of coaching, you can find out what's going on with them. You can design something that's going to work for them. And you can do like a bespoke sound healing, right? How does it work when you got like a whole room of people, some of whom might not even want to be there? Maybe their boss told them they had to go. How does that work?
I love corporate environments because you really do. You get that mixed bag of people who like, some people are already really into it, and there are the people who are a little bit skeptical. So I always give the same talk at the beginning, similar to what I talked about. I just explain, this is what it is, and this is how it works. And you might experience, they might see some colors, or you might start to feel a little bit sleepy. I am never offended if people fall asleep. I welcome that. That's actually like a compliment to me. If you get that relaxed that you just drift off to sleep, amazing. And I love that. And so usually when I just break it down like that, it creates a much more welcoming, inviting environment for people. And it's really intuitive. I use a combination of intuitive skills and also musical skills because I want it to sound nice. But mostly I just read the energy of the room. So if I get a sense that somebody is a little bit extra agitated or extra nervous, I might kind of zero in and play some specific notes to calm them down. If it seems like a pretty mellow crowd, I'll just kind of go with that. Sometimes I can play not aggressive, that's not the right words, but more adventurous combinations of notes, we'll call it. If it's a group that can handle being challenged and pushed a little bit. So even if it's a group, I always tailor it to be specific to what the group seems to need. And without fail, cause we always have a little discussion afterwards, or people will come up to me and want to chat, and it's always right on. Somebody will be like, oh my gosh, I was having a headache when I came in, and then you played a specific note, and then the headache went away, and it always lines up with what I'm feeling. I think somebody's asking for me to play the crown chakra bowl or whatever. And I very rarely know who, but that's when the magic and the science come together.
I love that you're bringing your intuitive gifts into that, because that's definitely something that we want to be talking about. A lot of the people that are watching this, that are fans of Seekers and Shifters, that are in Seekers Club, are people who are exploring their own intuitive gifts. And we can be a little bit sheepish sometimes talking about that, because often, and I'm sure you've had this experience too. I've had this experience. We start talking about it, and we get a little snark, we get a little blowback, we get a little, maybe like even a who do you think you are kind of a vibe. And it can be scary to talk about, but what you're describing is experience I'm very familiar with, which is I would explain it as like the spirit working through me, however you want to say that, whatever language is comfortable to you. But at a point you go, this is not coming from me. This is coming from something else or somewhere else. And my job really is to get out of the way of it, and let it come through. Is that the experience you're having when you're intuiting what people need?
Yes, that's exactly what it feels like. It's not something that's coming from me. It's coming through. And the more I can center myself and calm myself down, then the easier it is for all that stuff to drop in.
At what point did you accept that about yourself? Was that hard to accept about yourself? Did it take you a minute, or were you just born being fine with being a vessel of God or whatever you are?
I really still fight that. And I've always had sort of a Healy voice, I think. Because even during my training and in the early days of performing, I would go on stage and afterwards people would come up to me and say, "Oh my gosh, I feel at peace after listening to you," which is like a lovely compliment, right? That's so beautiful. And I'm honored. And at the same time, they would go over to my colleagues and be like, "Oh my gosh, you're such a thrilling, brilliant storyteller, and you're an incredible actress." And I would be like, should I be hearing that? Like, am I doing something wrong? What is wrong? And I had this brilliant teacher, Carol Kirkpatrick, who is also an NLP master practitioner. She's the one who's kind of set me on this particular course. There was one day where in my lesson, I just wasn't getting it. I was like trying to create an authentic sound and trying to line the technique up. And I was coming up against this wall. And so she came right up to me and she was like this sort of formidable force of nature, right? So she came up to me, and when she looks at a person, she can see right into their soul. So she did that thing where she looked me right in the eyes and she said, "A voice like yours is a big responsibility." And I had no idea what she meant at the time. But then I went through this whole spiritual awakening, I guess, as we can call it, where sort of a bunch of my gifts popped wide open at once. Like the energy coming out of the hands thing, and all the clairs started to come in, and the intuitive gifts just lit up. And that's when it made sense. I was like, oh, okay, that's what she meant. That's how I'm supposed to be using my voice. Mm-hmm. And so accepting it is a daily choice.
I'm laughing with you because I know that daily choice. Gosh, that's such a beautiful story. And I know this daily choice of, am I going to be a weirdo today, or I'm going to pretend to be normal today? And I've been practicing with some guidance, from some of my coaches, showing up as all of me. I've been a business coach for a long time. We freaking the spreadsheets, right? And got to this point of, okay, I need to bring mindset coaching in it. Okay, I need to bring, and I bring my intuition to it all the time. But I've not been comfortable being like fully out about, hey, I'm intuiting this, or I'm feeling this, or this is coming through for me, until lately. And so like, it's been a really interesting exploration of how do I bring this to that? These two that seem very different. But at the end of the day, they're not. They really work together. I mean, with you performing, obviously letting the spirit move through you, letting that come out of your voice when you're on stage singing opera, that goes together. When you're facilitating, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
When you are allowing that to happen, do you perform better?
Oh yeah. The more I can get out of the way, the better the performance is. And the second I start to get in the way, that's when I start to overthink things, and I start to get like fussy about technique, and I feel my own emotions sort of run away with me. So that really is, it's like a critical step, is making sure I'm coming from a place of centeredness, or else it's just not as fun for anybody. And the audience doesn't feel it as well if I'm in that space either.
Right. And it's like, and I'm sure it's still beautiful and it's still good, and nobody would be like, "Oh, that sucks." But the difference between when you're kind of on it and when you are in your head about it, right? And getting in to any type of performance, you get in your head too much in the moment. It's going to mess it up. And I know, athletes is the same way. It's like, you can be in your head while you're figuring out your training schedule and figuring but then when it's game time, you got to be in the game.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. And like even with working with clients, right? It's like, if you're in your head when you're working with clients and second guessing the things that you say, it's not going to land as well. So when you just open up that energetic channel and just use your intuition, and also, like facts and knowledge, of course, we love those, but flow state is where it's at.
Right. And it's like facts are in the learning process, right? Like I'm a speaker. I speak on stage sometimes. That is going to go much better if I have a general idea of what I want to say, and then I can just flow and be myself on stage, versus if I'm reading bullet points off of a slide and talking exactly. It'll be fine. It'll be all right, but it's not going to be that same connection with an audience, right? If I'm doing that. I am an amateur dancer. I don't want to give anybody the wrong impression there. But in dance, I learned a partner dance called Zouk over the last few years. And that's a dance where it is really beautiful and in flow. But when you're learning, you're drilling steps. You just drill steps. So you'll go to class and you'll be drilling the most boring basic step for an hour, 2 hours. Then you go back and you do it again. You do it again. You do it again. It's that drilling of the basic steps that allows you to be in the flow once you're in the dance, because you're not actually thinking about, oh, and where's my foot supposed to go? Like, it's in you got that unconscious competence with it, right?
Oh, yes, that's so true. And it's so for so many different things too, right? It's like practice the way you want to perform, whatever your performance looks like, and your body's going to get it. Like, it'll remember what to do. And that's when it gets fun. It's like the performance becomes the reward for all your hard work.
Oh, absolutely. I love it. So to the seekers who are interested in sound healing or adding that to a repertoire, I mean, you're talking to a lot of people who have maybe never done this, or like me, maybe they've experienced it a couple of times at a yoga class when somebody special brought something in, but it was kind of on that level. What do you think is the best way to start getting into sound healing, or to start adding it to your routine?
Oh, totally. So there's so many amazing sound healers on YouTube. And also obviously me. So I would, like, just get curious and start listening to different people and kind of see how it makes you feel, and just start to check it out. And then what I love to tell people to do who are curious about it is just move through the day with your ears wide open and notice what sounds change your emotional state. Because it's not even always music, right? Like, there's music all around us. So sometimes you might feel really, really calm just listening to the birds, or listening to the breeze, or if you live by the water, hearing the sound of the ocean. That might be the sound healing for you. So if you figure out what that is, then just hit the internet and see what kinds of local things there are for you to go check out. And there's so many different options. And once you know what you like, you can't really go wrong.
Absolutely. Now, you and I met learning NLP. We were in NLP master practitioner training together. I got to coach each other a little bit. And I'm wondering, how do you incorporate NLP with your sound healing, or do you?
I do. That has become one of my most favorite things, because what I have found is using sound on the back end to ground in a session helps people integrate faster. And sometimes I use it on the front end. If I have a client come in and they're a little bit nervous, or they're feeling a little bit extra anxious that day, I'll start them with a sound meditation. So we kind of calm them down and bring them into center. So then the prefrontal cortex is online and their unconscious feels safe. So it's easier to work with both parts of them at the same time to do the clearing and the rewiring, and really getting into those neural pathways. I love it because it's so much fun to be able to use a cool, accessible tool like sound to help regulate their nervous system, so we can pop them into the change workplace faster.
I love that, because, I work with energy, and it's a little bit of a higher bar sometimes in terms of convincing. Not like I'm trying to convince people, but if I say, well, hey, is it okay if I work with some energy to kind of get you? There's going to be a type of client that's like, yes, please give me the weird stuff. And clients like that, I love you guys so much. And then there's other people that are like, that's okay, I'd rather not, and of course we're always going to respect boundaries. I feel like for you, just being like, I'm just going to do a little sound healing for you. Like, who's going to say no to that? Have you ever had anybody say no to that?
I've never had anybody say no. They love it. They love it. And a lot of people come to me because they like the sound aspect. And it's like a great entry point into the rest of the energetics.
Absolutely. It's accessible. Like no would be like, everyone loves pleasant sound. So it's going to say no, you can't. And you're still using sound to get people into a trancy state, a receptive state, a state where that change work is going to take hold.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it does work on the energetic level too, because this is still vibrations, right? Everything is vibrations. And so it's amazing to be able to get to do that work alongside all of the NLP stuff and the hypnotherapy and all of those goodies.
Oh, yeah. And we love that. And then there's this aspect to it that's just fun. So I imagine, especially when you're working with corporate groups, et cetera, that you're taking a group of people who are maybe like kind of stressed out, kind of uptight, kind of tense, and you're bringing them into something fun and something joyous. And we know joy is a very high vibration. So getting them into the vibration of joy.
Yes. Oh, that's so true. In fact, I got a great compliment from one of my corporate clients not long ago. Like I did a sound session for a group of them on a Monday morning. And that's exactly how I tailored it. I was like, I know y'all are stressed and I know you're probably tired. So if you've ever wanted to take a nap at work, now is the time. And you're all going to have a much better day after this. And afterwards, he was like, this is the best Monday I've ever had. And I was like, bingo, exactly. Start your day with something fun and easy.
What kind of outcomes do your corporate clients report, like in terms of their workforce? Once you've done, are you doing one thing? Are you coming in and doing multiple things? Like, how does it work and what happens?
I'm constantly amazed at the results that I hear about, because it's like, even though I know how effective it is, I know how good it is, it's always so affirming and validating to hear that back from people. So, what I hear the most from corporate clients is productivity goes up and things like sick days start to go down. So it's actually like quite literally saving these companies money by just addressing these tiny little stress related costs in the workplace. I gave somebody, a managing director, I gave somebody a really like quick NLP tool from one of the meta programs because he was struggling to get through a task that was necessary, but he really hated it. And I was like, okay, so answer a couple of questions for me. And we figured out that he was a specific thinker instead of a general thinker. And so I just said, okay, let's just reframe this. And instead of approaching the task like this, start here and do it backwards. And it changed the whole game. And all of a sudden his attitude was better. He was getting along with his colleagues better. He was able to focus more on creating a positive culture just because of one teeny tiny shift. It's amazing. And I've had people report like, oh my gosh, my back used to hurt all the time, but after listening to this, my pain went away. I've heard things like somebody this is from an athlete, a professional athlete that I work with, who was struggling to get time on the field because he wasn't getting along with the coach, completely shifted his whole mindset and his whole attitude from doing some sound baths and some NLP work. And now it's like getting looked at for the Olympics. So it's really like, yeah, it's powerful stuff.
Absolutely. And my favorite shift is that first shift, right? So when we're working with a client, that first time that they have any kind of shift, what they really realize underneath that is that they can shift. And that's when your brain goes from, oh, my life is static and it is what it is. And this is what's happening to me. And this is who I am. And this is how I have to live. And this is what I'm, strapped with and saddled with, to, oh, I can do one little thing and I can feel completely differently. And once you open that door, that's when the magic happens, because then and that's what, that's what the seekers are doing here is we realize now we've got that door open. Here's all of the different ways that I can shift my reality, that I can create my own experience. But it starts with that first shift and that first realization that, oh, sometimes it takes a little thing to help you feel completely differently.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And once you get that ball rolling, it starts to happen so fast.
Yeah. And then you get to that mastery of your own emotions, which, like we said, is really the key to high performance, but also is the key to just like enjoying your fucking life. Right. We all have stressful external situations and circumstances in our lives. This is the kind of stuff that allows us to roll with it, to deal with it, and ultimately to accept it, whatever it is, because we know we're going to be okay. We know we're going to learn from it. We know it's for our highest good at the end of the day. We may not be able to see it right now, but we can look back later and go, oh, that's what that was for. That's why that happened. Right. And it comes from just being able to accept that little shift in the beginning.
Yes. Just like life is going to life forever. Yeah. But if you can just drop the resistance to whatever emotion happens to be coming up and learn how to navigate the challenge without going off the rails, everything feels better.
Everything feels better all the time. And you can get joy with it no matter what it is.
Yes. Bingo.
So I love that. Gosh, I love having you here. Please tell our friends where they can find you. If you want to work with Stephanie, you want to follow Stephanie, where should they find you?
Yes, please. So come find me. I'm on YouTube at I am Steph A. Ball. That's the same as Instagram. You can also catch me on LinkedIn. I've got some fun stuff dropping over there. And I'll make sure that, Michelle, you've got all my handles and links and everything so people can, grab my track. Like I've got a track on Spotify and Apple Music and all that good stuff. And, if you're interested in coming to try a session, I'll make sure you know where to do that.
Absolutely. And all you corporate bosses out there, you should hire Stephanie because you're going to save money on your workforce. They're going to have less sick days and they're going to be happier at work. So there's an ROI to this. go bring her in. Bring her to help you. Thank you so much for being on Seekers and Shifters today. It's always a pleasure chatting with you. And I'm so excited we got to share this with the world today. Thank you.
You too. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.